Hey guys, Creator Mom. I was just thinking about how fear, fear can cause us to do harmful things, but it's tricky because fear tricks us by saying, because fear is usually mostly fear of the unknown. That's where the fear comes from, this unknown. But fear tries to tell us that that unknown possibility is going to be the worst thing ever. It's just you don't know what's there. It could be worse than the situation that you have right now. That's what fear tells us. If you move, if you do this, you're going to end up in a worse situation than you are now. If you take a chance to do what's right, or not even what's right, but like if you take a chance to do what you think is going to be better, it's going to end up coming out worse for you. You're going to make things worse. And it's funny because it's weird. I was talking to somebody and they were sharing their story with me about how they grew up. And I was like, that was abusive. Like, you literally grew up in abuse. But see, kids don't know better. Like, when you grow up in a certain way, you just think it's normal, I guess. You just don't know any other way. So, but as an adult, when you look back and you realize, oh, yes, I was abused. I was abused and neglected. I don't know. I think it's important to acknowledge um, because we probably have behaviors and things that stem from that abuse, but we don't realize it. We don't realize how the abuse has affected us or shaped us in maybe not so much good way, in maladaptive ways. So yeah, it's important to say, yes, I was abused, or my mother was abusive, or I was in an abusive situation. That's not being a victim, and that's not being unforgiving. That's simply stating that was a situation, I acknowledge it, and then that helps us to acknowledge, wow, I have certain mindsets and certain beliefs that stemmed from this abusive environment, but I'm no longer in that. I can become healthier now. I think that's the real version of letting go, not this, oh, it's the past. There's nothing I can do with it. I just need to move on with my life. That's not healing. That is not healing at all. That's suppression. That's just burying it, thinking I'll just forget about it, but you don't realize it's pushing out. It's pushing out. And I'm speaking to myself too, of course. I'm always talking to myself. Actually, the only person I am talking to is myself on here. We're all always really talking to ourselves, ministering to ourselves. Anyways, so right, as I say, everyone is you pushed out. Anyways, so this guy was telling me about his upbringing and um, just that as a young kid, you know, into teenagehood or something like that, just that their siblings and them were not allowed, out of their rooms, and their step parent kept them up there, didn't want them downstairs, didn't really want them to go outside. And it hurt my heart, it hurt my gut to hear that. And but the mom did do nothing about it. And it got more perverse than that. But the thing is that, you're like, oh yeah, my mom, yeah, she didn't know better. No, I mean, God, we have brain. Come on, I don't know. It doesn't matter whether she knew better or not. But the point is, it, you know, it happened, right? Well, anyways, I was listening to Joyce Meyer for like a brief second this morning. And if you know her story, she was sexually abused by her father. And she said that it was almost harder for her to forgive her mother because her mother kind of allowed it. Like, she saw what was going on and didn't stop it. She didn't confront. And it's like when you have to confront the evil, when you have to confront the controlling person, it's so hard. It really is, especially if you have a codependent personality, I guess, or codependent tendencies. It's very terrifying. So I ain't going to come after nobody. Like, you know, I'm not going to come after the mother. But her reasoning was interesting. Joyce Meyer said she apologized to her like 30 years later or something, and said that the reason she didn't say anything and do anything was she was afraid that she would not be able to support her children, her two children, on her own. So the fear of the unknown was telling her, if you try to make this change, if you confront him about what he's doing, you're going to lose everything. You're going to be homeless with your kids. You're going to make your kids homeless. You're going to be on the street. You're going to have nothing. Now, isn't that worse than what's going on now? It's just better if you let him sexually abuse her. At least you guys will still have a roof over your head. At least you all won't be homeless. So that fear of a situation being worse kept her in the toxic place and kept her children being harmed, thinking that, well, this is better than the latter. I think that fear makes us do black and white thinking. It's either this or it's that, and that is worse. Where that can actually be better. It can be better. It could end up being a better situation, but we don't take the chance because we think we're going to make it worse. I noticed that thinking happening in me as well. With moving on from my job situation, like I want another source of income, that's remote, but I just feel like I've been looking and looking and I just can't find anything, or nothing has come up. And because what I'm doing now, there's the fear goes, well, you should be grateful for what you have now, like just leave it the way it is. Don't really push it because you're probably going to make it worse. You're going to make things worse. But of course, like I observe that and I'm not necessarily giving in to what that fear is saying, but I'm like, wow, this is interesting, and the thing with the job is tied to a relationship with an unhealthy person too. And, leaving that job would mean also cutting ties with that person. And that's another level of emotional tethering that's involved. But yeah, it's almost like something is just being like, just stay where you're at, just stay with what you're doing. But then there's this other part of me that's like, no, I need to get away from this person. I need to get away. I need to do something else. But then I'm also like bound to this thought that's like, oh, well, you can't be desperate to run away from that job because if you're desperate, you'll never find it because then you'll have desperation energy if you're trying to run away, run as fast as you can. But yeah, anyways, but I know deep in my heart that I'm still going to believe that I already have this other source of income that is perfect for me. That is not where I am right now, it's just crazy. The situation is crazy. So it's weird. It's kind of traumatic, but anyways, yeah, I guess the point is that fear just wants us to be afraid and not and just tells us that when we go to explore the unknown that it's going to be the worst case scenario ever, and that's limiting because it's wrong. I don't know. Whatever they say, the fear is trying to protect us, but we're in charge. You know what I mean? Like we're in charge of what we think about that fear. And is that fear really telling us the truth? Is it being black and white? Where is it coming from? It's coming from an unhealthy place. And we're the ones who have to kind of like observe and assess whether this is correct or not, whether this aligns or not. So anyways, those were awful situations. Like, see, just fear makes you stay in abusive, toxic situations. It's really sad. But I just I don't know. When you think about just being human in all these different situations, you just think, damn, like we all so many people are so sick, like in the head, and we really need God's help. Like we really need grace. We need the Spirit of God. You know, we really do, to make it through. All right, everyone, have a wonderful Tuesday.